welcome to this video. So this is our 2 Tarot Magpie 12 houses 12 decks. It's basically breaking down the 12 astrological houses and assigning prompts to each one, and assigning also using different decks for each one of the houses in astrology. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Let's dive in. So the first prompt is self-identity and first impressions. A deck you'd use for readings about your self-identity, or a deck you feel represents you in some way. It's no surprise, it's one of my favorites, if not a huge favorite currently. For me, the Lioness Oracle Tarot. So the first house in astrology represents the self. Why I've chosen this deck to represent myself? This deck is like looking at myself through a maybe dreamy, more cosmic mirror. So I have chosen the Lioness Oracle Tarot because I think it's a perfect fit for me because of this bold, dreamy collage. It feels like a deck that encourages me to be bold. I'm a Sagittarius, and this is called the Lioness Oracle Tarot. I feel it has fire qualities, but it also has some of the dreaminess and the cosmic energy I like. It's also very feminine, and it feels like stepping into my own power. So I like to think about myself this way. It's also playful and a little bit magical. It feels like it embodies maybe many versions of myself, not just one, because there is a little bit of everything here. It feels precious, it feels feminine, it feels creative, it feels like it has layers to it. And it features a lot of cats, which is an animal I also sometimes identify myself with, and it's an animal I feel like very connected to. And the rose is one of my favorite flowers too. I also love art, and I love dreaminess. I am a little bit dreamy, and I like to think about a bigger picture. I think this cosmic energy really fits with this Sagittarian like energy of expansion and seeing the bigger picture. But I have to say my ascendant is actually in Libra. And I think this deck also reflects for me the themes of my ascendant, like beauty, elegance, this kind of aesthetic pleasure of the senses, when you see something beautiful, like appreciating a work of art or beautiful decks. At the same time, I have some Scorpio in my first house as well, and actually my Venus, the ruler of my ascendant, is in Scorpio, and I think this deck does a very good job at mixing themes of beauty, but it has a little bit of a Scorpio Venus vibe for me too, like for the sensuality, and the there is something like in the aesthetic overall that feels very Venusian, very Libra, but also Scorpio for me. And at the same time, it's quite cosmic and expansive. So it puts together for me Libra, Scorpio, and Sagittarius. It is really I think together with Gemini, it's, where most of my planets fall in my astrological birth chart. So this is for me the deck of the self. The second prompt is personal resources, a deck that helps you reflect on abundance and money matters, or one that feels like an investment, either financially or for its impact on your practice. This is a little bit long, but I have my take on this one. I have chosen the William Blake Tarot of the creative imagination, not because it is the most traditional maybe association here, but I have my reason for choosing this one. So the second house in astrology is the house of value and stability. And this house is also about what we value, right? So money, possessions, and also self-worth. I have done a reading recently for me. Actually, it was today. And this card, yeah, you see what such a beautiful spread today. This card also came out for me. And sometimes the beauty of this deck is also that you find actually the words, like the poetry on the cards, and it adds just, it seems like to pick up on your feelings so well. It says, clouded with discontent and brooding in their minds terrible things. So today, actually, as I'm filming this video, I'm feeling a little bit like this card. But what I was inquiring about was actually, I'm going to put this aside, because it is my card today. Maybe you cannot tell, you know, from my mood, but yeah, this was another one. I'm not feeling great. And maybe that's why also I want to film a video, because it makes me feel better. Oh, I hope so. As I was saying, this is about what we value, not only money, but also self-worth. And Blake's work is visionary, tapping into deep personal and spiritual values, I feel, beyond material wealth. I have already studied in another video. This is a one question deck for me normally. I turn to it when I want to ask about creative process. I think this is what this deck is for, but creative process especially related to my work. Especially when I want to seek advice on advertisement and marketing and those kind of strategies, or maybe also some like aesthetic suggestion, you know. I feel that this deck works so well for this. But actually today I got this card when I was asking about something I did for work. And I said in one of my previous videos, like, I don't feel like I would turn to this deck for, you know, readings concerning deep emotions or overly, you know, emotional readings or emotion focused, feelings focused readings. Obviously you cannot limit, you know, a deck like that, and you know, this is just my personal use. So I turn to this deck with a specific purpose. Many decks in my collection have a specific purpose, and normally if I don't find a purpose for my decks, I don't keep them. You cannot limit what a deck does for you, right? And so today, when I was asking about, and I was really feeling this kind of dissatisfaction for something I did in my work, like I am a perfectionist a little bit. So this content doesn't actually say I must feel this way, but this is how I feel because I think I am a perfectionist, and I may be limiting myself. I also got this card like restriction. I may be limiting myself, not in my creativity, but in the way I think about, you know, my creative pursuits. And I kind of feel restricted, like, but it's on my own created, you know, sense of limitation and the restrictions I impose on myself just because of my thought patterns and so on. So this deck, actually, when I said, and I keep saying, I turn to this deck for with a specific question in mind and a specific purpose, I don't mean I want to limit this deck, because this deck does tap into feelings like any deck can. But I just mean that I tend to turn to this one, like many other ones, when I feel in a particular way, or also when I want to ask around a specific theme. But I can see myself using this deck, honestly, every day and for every purpose, because it just works with it. For me, it's a second house deck because it challenges for me a little bit the idea of ownership and also success and value, making me ask, what do I truly possess? Am I rich in ideas and purpose rather than just material things? It encourages like a more profound understanding of value. And this is just something I have thought today as I was using it, beyond what is just your bank account. Because personal worth is not money. The Blake's Tarot speaks to this because it's all about imagination, artistry, and the richness of our inner world. And so it also reminds me that creative vision and self-expression are priceless. So this is the Blake's Tarot, a huge favorite. It's not like I want to limit its powers, but I want my decks to have a specific use and a specific time to turn to them, so that every deck has got a little bit of use also in my collection. I don't like to keep decks just to keep them on the shelf, but this is just personal, you know. So let's move on. And maybe you can tell I have changed the setup slightly today, but maybe you don't if it's the first time you are here with me. Hi, I'm Mess, by the way. Third prompt. The third house is all about communication and learning. A conversational deck that's easy to read or that you would recommend to tarot beginners. I think I could have many for this prompt, but it was very clear for me what I wanted to pick. And this is the CS Tarot for me. CS stands for Conrad Stein, who is the creator. This is a deck. It's basically a Rider-Waite, and you can find it on Make Playing Cards. Each one of Conrad Stein decks have something unique. You can find many reviews of his decks online, on YouTube also, and many walkthrough. You can get a more precise idea, maybe searching for it if you want more information, but you can get, as I was saying, there are many versions he does, and you can purchase them on Make Playing Cards. I chose this one that is basically a Rider-Waite Smith, but you can see what it does. Like in the background of the cards, I chose this version. It has like crystals. I fell in love with this version. This is just one of the many, you know. It also has like vintage versions of the Rider-Waite, and I needed a Rider-Waite for, you know, to read for my clients. I needed something straightforward, and this is, as you can see, just the classical Rider-Waite. But what is interesting is that you can also choose the cardstocks. So it has many options like plastic, linen, smooth finish, and this is smooth finish. You can also personalize the backs. This is the amber smooth. You can also choose, for example, amber linen. Then there is burnt orange, which is like darker burnt orange, right? So it's like a darker orange. This is amber, and the cardstock is smooth. I really wanted the linen, and I think I may, sooner or later, I may get another one with the linen finish because I love linen finish. But I don't know if it really picks up. Yeah, I guess you can see it. Yeah. As I was saying, you can get many versions on Make Playing Cards. This is good for a beginner because it's the classical Rider-Waite, pretty straightforward. The classical deck you can learn with, but with this crystalline backdrop that adds like an extra layer of clarity and focus, and is a little bit more peculiar. And also, since the third house is the house that deals with the mind, the speech, and the intellect, I think this deck is perfect because the third house is how we process and share information, and this deck feels reliable, straightforward, and you know, it's a perfect companion for clear readings and also for beginners to start like learning. And the addition of the crystal imagery enhances like the sense of mental sharpness, I think. And you can sometimes, I think, recognize the crystals in the background. Like, I don't know if I am correct. I've just said you can recognize them. This looks like fluorite for me. It has just some of those rainbow like hues. So it has like a mercurial quality to it. Mercury is all about how we think, speak, and connect also with the world around us. So I chose the CS Tarot, a Rider-Waite Smith clone. with a crystal backdrop because it's clear, direct, and speaks in a language I can always return to, and it's perfect for beginners. And if you love crystals, it's just something that makes sense. So what about the fourth house now? The fourth house is the house of home and roots, a deck that feels like home and gives you a sense of safety, security, or nostalgia, or a deck that you use for readings about things happening in your home. And family for me, I have chosen for this one the Edmund Dulac Tarot. So it's no surprise if you've seen some of my videos, I have featured this one already for I think in one video, maybe for a prompt, a specific prompt. If you've watched something, you already know, but I'm going to repeat myself. This is a deck I use only for readings related to familiar matter, because this deck feels like something, not like something new, but more like something I was reconnecting with when I got it. So this deck for me is all about, I wouldn't say like emotional security, but yes, it's kind of a deck that is comforting, nostalgic because of these, illustrations by Edmund Dulac. Even though maybe I didn't connect with these images when I was a child, but they do spark some memories of something I have already seen, in particular this one. I remember reading this story when I was a child. It's The Princess and the Pea, right? So this is where we come from, our past and emotional security, the fourth house. And the Dulac Tarot has these storybook nostalgic illustrations that take me back to a time of comfort, maybe also discomfort sometimes, and childhood dreams. So it feels like revisiting old memories and finding warmth in them. But I also felt compelled when I got it to read about, as I was saying, family matter. And the answers I got from this one were so spot on and also had this kind of comforting vibe. Because the art feels like stepping into this old familiar fairy tale, right? And the kind of that makes you feel safe, but also makes you aware of the depth of your own emotional history. So it's definitely a deck that reminds me where I come from and the stories that I was told as a child and how they have shaped also my emotional world. So this is the Dulac Tarot. The fifth prompt is creativity and play, a deck that perfectly expresses how you feel, or one that's just fun to use when you want to play with your cards. I actually don't play a lot with my cards. Normally I have a purpose and an objective, when I want to turn to one of my decks. But I have a deck for creativity, which is what this house represents: creativity, pleasure, children as well. And it's when, if you know me a bit, you probably know this is also one of my soul decks, or at least one of my first soul decks. Reason why it keeps being a soul deck. It sleeps in this huge bag, but I really like it for this one, and I think it sleeps very well here. It's its little home. This is the Tapestry Tarot deck. It's out of print, it's vintage, and I've got this one many years ago. This card used to pop up every time when I was blonde. I also have blue eyes, and so this one was just like, was me, until a couple of years ago. This deck is a collage deck. It's actually a collage made with fabric and maybe also other materials by this artist Yvonne G. Jensen. This deck does its own thing. As you can see, it has also associations with the houses, but they are completely, random. So it has its own system, it does its own thing, and also it has keywords here on the top. And also the majors in particular, they have also associations with the signs, like here, for example, the Hanged Man, Pisces. This makes sense. As you can see, also parts of the body, like here, the feet, and take a moment to appreciate how gorgeous this is. It can remind you, I think, a little bit also of Zerner Faber work. And the Zerner Faber Tarot and the oracles. I think the oracles actually from by Zerner Faber may pair very well with this one. But so this is very creative, right? So it's 90s, it's very 90s, also because there is a story I always tell associated with this deck. I was a child in the 90s, and one day our teachers brought us, I was, at elementary school, our teachers brought us, take a moment to appreciate the richness, and the details. It was like a laboratory or something, like a workshop. Yes, we were, they brought us to this workshop where all my classmates and I, together with, I don't remember if we were also with other children, but basically we were there to create collages using fabric and different materials. Now, it makes sense, my choice for the fifth house deck, because this is related to an experience I had as a child. And the fifth house is where we express ourselves. It's also our joy, our art, our passions. And this deck is very vibrant, is full of life, full of details, full of art. And it feels like a patchwork of experiences woven together into something very joyful and dynamic. And it's so cute. Since it's out of print, it's also pretty unique, almost one-of-a-kind energy that makes it feel so special for me. And it's like an artist's special personal sketchbook, So every time I use it, it reminds me of my own experiences, and also it reminds me to enjoy the process of creation and not just the outcome, because it's the process of creating that is a joy itself. And it's also connected to the kind of childlike joy of expression. The fifth house is also play, is passion, is artistic energy. And the Tapestry Tarot is colors and movement. It's expressive. It feels like a creative explosion in a deck form. Like many decks, right? I may have chosen many decks for this prompt, but this is the one that puts together, art and childhood, a joy of creation, and it reminds you also to have fun, to embrace, the kind of spontaneity in the process, and maybe not take things too seriously either. Even though I use this deck also for very serious, readings, and I used it in the past. And I also spoke a little bit about how this deck has a very unique way to speak to me, which is, again, very creative and unique to this deck, because sometimes when I read the cards, the keywords are at the top. When I lay all the cards in a row, for example, the keywords tend to form like sentences. Even if the sentences are not like grammatically perfect, they make sense. And I feel like it speaks, giving me like this other layer of words. Like many decks probably that have words do, right? But this is one that does it for me. And like here, for example, if you feel blocked, maybe you can find freedom using your diplomacy, and this will lead to fulfillment. I don't need to look at the 10 of Swords, 5 of Pentacles, 7 of Swords, and 9 of Pentacles. Do you know what I mean? So, or you can put just these two layers of meaning together. I really love what this deck does. So the fifth house is all about pure expression, and there is a lot of it here. This is, as I was saying, out of print, but you can still find it secondhand. I really would like to have a backup copy of this. So please don't go and buy all the copies I want. I would like all the copies for me. I trimmed this deck. It actually comes with the white borders, you know, are bigger. And I had to trim it to be able to use it, because I also felt a little bit more connected to it. And I also rounded the corners, because the corners also were very sharp. They were not rounded when the deck came. So this is the Tapestry Tarot, and let's move on. So now to the sixth prompt. The sixth is all about daily habits, the sixth house, systems and routines. So a deck you usually use regularly in your practice, or a deck that you use for readings about practical matters. This was the prompt. The old style tarot. This is mass market, so it may seem like nothing fancy, but I want to talk a little bit about this one. I feel like many people, when I saw people getting this one, on YouTube mainly, it was like dismissed pretty quickly as a Rider-Waite-Smith clone. And it is, it is, but it's actually far more interesting than, you know, whatever clone you may get. And this is because this deck actually has a lot of details. I like the old vintage feel of it. And so it's a very special Rider-Waite-Smith clone. What I want to say is that this deck has so many details, and it features such lovely colors, and sometimes some animals that are not present in the original Rider-Waite-Smith. I think these details make this deck far more interesting than it seems, because it may seem like a clone, okay, just another clone, right? But it's far more interesting. For example, like here, this this sort of cherub, I think, is holding like 2 cups, and what is interesting is that the 2 cups are not in the hands of the 2 people, but actually the gestures here are different, right? The caduceus is always the same, and this cherub, also the wings, if you notice, they are the wings of a butterfly, which is very interesting. And butterflies, as you probably know, represent change and growth. Much like relationships evolve from maybe initial attraction to deeper emotional bond. But also, butterflies are linked to the psyche, like reinforcing the idea here of a spiritual, maybe a fated connection between 2 people. And also we tend to associate butterflies with lightness and joy, unlike maybe the bird's wings, which are heavier, but the butterfly wings give a sense of delicacy, like mirroring, you know, sometimes like also the fleeting nature of love. So there is something more to pick up on here. While swallows, which is not a usual animal you find in the 2 of Cups, in the Rider-Waite, that is why I'm saying this is not exactly a clone. And sorry for the rambling. If you're not interested in this, you know, you can skip and just, you know, go on or whatever. But swallows are known for, I don't know if you know, but they are known for choosing a mate for life. And so this, I feel, can symbolize like a faithful and lasting bond, maybe in the initial stages, because it's a 2, right? And this is almost a new beginning. It's the initial spark of attraction. And also swallows are migratory birds, returning often after long journeys. And so this can also mean like lovers are reuniting, or maybe relationships are overcoming distance. This is just my own take on this, you know, but there is so much to pick up on. And the flight also here evokes a sense of direction, like a sense of adventure, and maybe a sense of emotional expression too. Like there is a sense of movement, right? Like freedom, maybe the freedom, you know, and also they are, as I was saying, a very loyal mate. So a lot of animal symbolism, which is not present in the classical Rider-Waite-Smith, You have to pay close attention to it. I also love the autumn leaves on the 4 cups. I think there is also a lot to pick up on this. I think I might do a video, maybe make a video on this one, because I don't know, I feel it's so underrated, and the colors are very, very interesting, and the details. Like, for example, I don't remember seeing in the classical Rider-Waite like the elder here holding the baby in his own hands. It's actually a different depiction from the traditional one. It may be the elder to me. I think it's not the husband because it looks like older. It may be like the grandfather to me. I don't know, but this looks so different. And I also love how in the 10 of Pentacles we have all the symbols for the planets inside the Pentacles. This is so interesting. For example, in the 8 of Swords we have a ghost like trying to, or it looks like an evil shadow, you know, almost trying to behead the figure here. And we have more birds, a lot of birds in the cards. Some makes, you know, some are, have a meaning which is more straightforward, like the owl here for the Queen of Cups. I don't know if it's an owl actually, or maybe a bird from like the same I don't know, family, but maybe it's not straightforward, you know, because maybe we tend to associate owls with swords, like or maybe I tend to associate, also many decks associate the owl with the High Priestess because of the kind of penetration, you know, and the ability to see also in the dark. But it is connected again. Here it makes sense because it is a bird connected to intuition and the ability to see beyond illusions. And the Queen of Cups is deeply connected to emotions and the subconscious and the hidden knowledge, just like the owl. And which is connected, you know, with mystery, or associated normally with mystery and insight. There is a lot to pick up on this, especially the colors. The colors, I think, are another layer to this deck. If we ever want to do a deep dive into this deck, I think there is just so much to pick up on. And here we have like the swallow again in the Knight of Swords. This is a swallow, right? Even though it's red, maybe it can be another bird. Not an expert. And yes, this is a swallow. Again, movement is here is the same bird, but it represents something different than what we find in the Two of Cups. Here, I think, is primarily, you know, movement. There is also to pick up on plants as well. Like, for example, I love the ivy on the Nine of Wands because it represents persistence. So it can be like a subtle symbolism, but it's present here in this deck and not in the original Rider-Waite, you know, version. Look at the colors. I think each color here we can pick up on a different meaning, and there are other birds here. I think these are like migratory geese, and it makes sense with the Six of Swords, right? But it remains a little bit in the background. I mean, you can totally pick up on the meaning because you know the Six of Swords, and this is a very Rider-Waite Smith depiction. But gosh, I mean, there is so much here, and I want to find also the, I'm sorry for this, I have to look for it now. I want to look for, and then I promise I will go on with this tag. I want to, yes, this one, the Queen of Pentacles. This is, I think, one of my favorite Queen of Pentacles, together with possibly the Yanasa House 8th edition, in particular one. So here we see a pear tree, right? And I love these little pears in the Queen of Pentacles. They are lovely. And these little pears here on the Queen of Pentacles, I think they symbolize this abundance, the nourishment. The pear is a very juicy fruit, right? And it represents like this kind of both physical material but also emotional sustenance, because the Queen of Pentacles is so grounded and practical and nurturing. And the pear here symbolizes, I feel, her ability to create this fertile, stable environment for those around her, as well as it highlights her connection to the earth and its bounty. The peer is also associated with prosperity and comfort. So she's not just focused on material wealth, but also on the well-being of herself and others. And this is such a luscious, environment. And I love this Queen of Pentacles. It is a great Queen of Pentacles. Maybe you may not like the art, but I think there is so much to pick up on this deck. And there are many birds, and as I'm saying this, there is a rooster in the Four of Pentacles. And the rooster guards what he has very fiercely, right? And it makes perfect sense in the Four of Pentacles. Also, the purple of the this kind of cloth makes sense here, because the purple is normally the purple color, is normally associated with nobility and wealth. And so it makes sense, like this person is protecting so fiercely what he has. It is such well thought deck, and it is being created by Alexander Ray. I think it did like an amazing job with the colors and the symbolism here. It's great. And you don't find anything like this in the guidebook, so it's just something I was trying to reflect on myself. Having said that, the sixth house is all about routine and discipline and well-being, and the old style feels like a workhorse deck. I mean, it's my workhorse deck. I use it for clients. That's why I picked up this one for the sixth house of routine. It sits on my desk. I use it for clients, and it's reliable, it's practical and deeply grounded. It also has this earthy like vibe for me. It has the traditional, also European fortune-telling vibe, making it feel like a deck that is meant to be used, rather than admired from a distance, for sure. So it's a deck that is made for practical use. And I love how there is an additional card in this deck, is the blank card. With the eye. I really like when I really like having this card, and when it comes up for clients, there is a reason for it, and it's deeply meaningful. I love to have it. This is the deck I turn to every day when I need just clear readings, down to earth advice, especially for other people. I don't read with this one for myself, or maybe when I need a quick clear response, I do, because it has this earthy vibe, but it works like for everything. It's a Rider-Waite Smith clone after all, even though it's a clone with some very interesting additional features and some changes, like the Seven of Cups. I think it would deserve a whole study, because I think the symbolism here and what is going on in this card is so interesting. So this is the old style tarot for my sixth house prompt. Next is the seventh house of partnership and contracts. Yes, a deck you feel deeply connected to, or one that you use for readings that involve other people. Actually, I don't know if I feel deeply connected to it. I think yes, like with any deck that I own at a certain point. But it's one that I use regularly for readings that involve other people, and especially relationships other people have, because I use it for my clients. And I was actually unsure if I had to pick up the Venus Morning Star, because it's so seventh house, right? Or the Tower of Aphrodite, just because this is the one I use regularly for my clients. And since I cannot decide myself, and both give off this Venus energy so strong, I think I may just flip through both. Sorry for the indecision. I have also zoomed a little bit. This is not meant to be a side-by-side comparison, because they are in random order, But both these decks, I think they breathe love and connection. One is it has a more ethereal feel, I think the Venus Morning Star, but it's that seventh house theme is all around here. So The seventh house is all about how we relate to others, and these decks feel like they understand both the beauty and the complexity of relationships. For some reason, even though they are both art-based, this feels a little bit more mythological for me. I don't know. They are both Venus themed, so, but it's just an impression I get. And this has become a workhorse for me for love readings for my clients. And maybe if I have also some love question for myself, it's great, it's accurate, precise, it's doing like a great job. While the Venus Morning Star, I think this would be more for personal practice for some reason because of the feel I get from it. There is a softness to these decks, but also they aren't just dreamy. They can be used for, you know, work around the partnerships, and they are all about love, connection, and deep and emotional depth, you know. And maybe they can be used together. Now that I am kind of pairing them, it would be great actually to use them together, and maybe with some oracle as well. And I have already some ideas because they just vibe. They are from the same creator. You can buy them in the same Etsy shop. They vibe. It would be interesting to do a reading around the dynamics of relationships, the good, the bad, and the beautiful, using both these decks. I may pair an oracle with these two and see how it goes. I think those from Broccoli magazine would do just fine. I love how also the nudity, or sometimes also the non-nudity, they are just mirrored between the two decks, and it's very interesting. So this is my possibly obvious choice for the seventh house, and actually it's obvious, but this is what I'm using also currently, you know. So this is one of the last decks I got, and this I'm currently using a lot for love readings. It's not just decks I'm showing to show them, but it's actually also what I'm currently using, either personally or for my personal practice, and more actually for client readings. So this is my seventh house prompt. For the eighth house, such a powerful house of transformation and secrets to be uncovered. A deck you use for shadow work and things you want to bring to the surface, or one that feels like magic. Actually, reading the prompt, there are two decks that come to my mind for me, because one is the one I actually would use more for shadow work, even though I don't really do it. I think every deck may work for shadow work, just because every deck can do it. Maybe some more than others because they have an aesthetic, right? And then there is another one that I think it's more one that gives me that magic feel. So, but again, I'm very indecisive, guys, in this video, or maybe it's just how I feel today. I cannot seem to make up my mind, and as I was saying, I am filming this video to really relieve myself, so bear with me. The one that feels for like magic and is also very linked to shadow work, if you want, or transformational energy, is the Tantric Dakini Oracle for me. And one that occasionally taps into shadow work for me, or is a little bit harsher and taps into this kind of darker maybe aspects, or hidden. I wouldn't say darker, I would say maybe more intellectual and confrontational. Yeah, it's the Barbara Walker Tower. So I couldn't really decide. I'm going to talk about both, so bear with me. The Tantric Dakini Oracle is a huge favorite. I want to work even more with it this year. I had already started also reading the book and working with it last year, and you can read it also very intuitively. But I still want to use it. I think it can give a lot. There is a lot to do, just to tap into in this deck. It's a huge favorite also for the vintage like feel of it. So the eighth house rules over mystery, the subconscious, and deep transformation. I think the Tantric Dakini Oracle taps into that in a way that it's unique. It's strange, this deck is unusual, and it's surreal, and it doesn't always give you easy answers. Like, I mean, I think you may have to be very intuitive with it, or maybe sometimes like extrapolate from the guidebook the meanings. Like, I worked heavily with the guidebook last year, and maybe it's not a deck you pull out casually like each morning. It's an experience, I think, but it really depends on how you want to read with it. So the Tantric Dakini Oracle, I think it's surreal. It's more surreal than maybe the Barbara Walker. It's more psychedelic also, and symbolic, even though there is a lot of symbolism here as well. But this feels more like on the intellectual side. And instead of structured mythology, it takes you more on a dreamlike journey into altered states of mind. It's a little bit unpredictable, is otherworldly. It's an oracle, right? So it doesn't have like a structure like the tarot, but it feels like stepping into a portal where messages arrive in strange intuitive ways rather than through strict interpretation. So this is the part of the 8th house for me that deals with, that helps you tap into that shadow work, also sexuality and magic and rebirth themes, and it takes you into the underworld and back. So this can be the ultimate transformation deck, and I think it's maybe, I don't know if maybe it's not so original. It's a choice for the 8th house, but hey, I mean, this is what I had. This is also one I have enjoyed a lot, you know, so I keep featuring it, but yeah, because I like it. And then the Barbara Walker Tarot actually for me explores another side, or explores not another side of the 8th house, but 8th house themes from another perspective, or with another flavor, you know. It is very intellectual. Also, Barbara Walker writings are very intellectual, very steeped into mythology, and so the Barbara Walker is maybe darker. It is not for me, actually. Sometimes this deck, it has been, many people say it is confrontational, and I can see that. I agree. You can see. But sometimes it is not. Like, look at this one, the word. This card also came up for me when, I was inquiring a day about training, I think, or I was very indecisive about going, you know, to the gym or something, and I felt like this card was just saying, grab a pair of dumbbells and move your body, you know. I think, it is confrontational for many people. For me, actually, in many readings, this is another dumbbell for me, you know, but yeah. In many readings for me, it was just a lot of fun because I associated, you know, with some things I see here. My own life and my own, you know, truth. So, but it certainly leans into mythology, feminism, hidden histories, and it can certainly expose uncomfortable truths and secrets, much like, 8th house themes. And I would really love to have, when I have like editions of vintage decks like this one, I would really love to have the original one, you know, the vintage edition. I keep seeing it everywhere, but it's very expensive, but I would love to have it. So this is a deck with a strong narrative, and it's another one that peels back layers, revealing, you know, raw, shadowy undercurrents of human nature. It's direct, no nonsense, and sometimes can be unsettling. but in a very structured way. And this for me is like another dragon telling me, grab the dumbbell, you know, and just leave the couch and go do something. But I mean, it all depends. It is a deck that if you, I don't know, from a certain perspective, it has a sense of humor. I mean, it just, there are some things here that make me laugh, you know. It's not a deck to laugh at. It's very rich in symbolism, very eighth house. This is just very historically rich, while if you want something more mystical and trance-like, then the Tantric Dakini, I think it offers that experience, you know? Now, the ninth house, it's all about exploration and worldview. A deck that has expanded your perspective on the tarot, sorry, or one you use for spiritual or philosophical questions. Very interesting. The ninth house is the house traditionally associated with, you know, Sagittarius. And the ninth house is also all about travel, philosophy, and broadening the mind. I am a Sagittarius, so I feel like this is my house. And I feel like I may want to put here what I like. And the tower for that is the Tower of the Droning Board. It is in my 2024 recap as well. I got this second hand, but it was like in perfect conditions when I got it. I think the person who had it didn't really use it. Why this is the choice for the ninth house of expansion and higher learning? Because what adds value to this deck is actually the guidebook. And I'm so sorry, but I will show it here somewhere. I don't have the guidebook here because when I moved, I just packed everything. And I think this book must be still in some of my boxes. I miss this book so much. It's the perfect companion to this deck. I think this is not a deck you may want to get if you don't get the guidebook. But the guidebook is a book you may want to get also without this one, without the cards. The book is it's full of knowledge. It's full of that kind of knowledge, that bookish knowledge, I would say, that Sagittarius just loves. And I am a Sagittarius, so I know what I'm talking about. So I will just lay down some cards here for you, and then I found pictures, you know, of the book I want to show you to explain what I mean if you don't have this book. Sagittarius is also very curious about other philosophies, spirituality, which is also something that the ninth house represents. That kind of, you know, philosophical and spiritual also pursuit. It likes to travel to, you know, foreign countries, and it's basically an adventure seeker. But adventure and expansion for Sagittarius are also, as I was saying, expansion of the mind. And the book, you know, for this deck, oh my gosh, it offers so much perspective, so much information. It's so knowledgeable. It's like a lesson. The most knowledgeable part, I think, is the writing for the majors. But there are some additional cards, like Madame Lulu here is knowledge. And I mean, this is so ninth house, right? And this is so Sagittarius. And it talks about, the book talks about a lot about cultures. And it talks a lot about teachers and writers and philosophers, but also it talks about very distant cultures and very distant philosophies. Like here, for example, in the card Madame Lulu, like I'm picking randomly, you know, it talks about the traditional, indigenous and local knowledges, are systems embedded in cultures, and so on. It talks about Eurocentric academic tradition versus maybe, it gives like an anthropological interpretation, I don't know how to say, making you aware of what is our perspective? I mean, personally, I live in Europe, and so when he talks about Eurocentric academic tradition, I can understand that he's trying to contrast like what you think it's, you know, true based on your perspective versus maybe what other cultures find to be true. This is very ninth house. So I don't want to be pedantic. If you can look at the description, you know, for example, for the Wheel of Fortune, just to make you understand how the guidebook is made, it really mentions a lot of authors, like also from ancient times, like ancient Rome, you know, and also classical authors, Greek authors, for example, to explain also the symbolism, for example, of the wheel. And it mentions authors, you know, who have maybe incorporated or used this symbolism and where you can find it. So definitely, I mean, it's very knowledgeable. And if you don't like this stuff, maybe reading this guidebook and working with this deck is not for you. But of course, I mean, at the end of all this writing, you know, it gives you also a quick like description for the majors. So you don't need to go through the whole entry every time you use the deck. But it's certainly a deck you can even read the book without using it. But if you use the deck together with the guidebook certainly demands a lot of attention from you. And so this is my deck, you know, to explore philosophical questions. Not because I use this one not because I really ask philosophical questions. Maybe you can with this book, you know. But because of all the references in the book and because of how this deck is structured and all the information that it gives you, I think it's very ninth house. It's definitely tapping into all that knowledge, that philosophical, spiritual, maybe more philosophical teachings, you know, and an anthropological take maybe as well. It is what it offers. The 10th house is the house of recognition and reputation, a deck that you trust to get it right when you're looking for guidance, or the one that defines your tarot style, a deck that people associate with you. The Revival Art Tower, just because I'm showing this a lot, but also because it is a soul deck, one that I got many years ago. The 10th house is all about career and legacy. So I feel like this is a deck that embodies, you know, mastery and the pursuit of greatness. Also because the 10th house is all about what we build, things that, how we leave our mark, you know. And the art in this deck feels timeless, like standing in a great hall of achievements. It carries the weight of history and reminds you of the long journey to mastery in any field. The 10th house also rules, you know, ambitions, reputation, and the mark we leave on the world, as I was saying. And so I feel like the revival art with this grand classical imagery feels like a legacy in itself. It speaks also of the hard work and discipline and the lasting impact of our efforts. Plus, it has this kind of majestic feel, which is perfect for the big goals. And I think this is a deck, I mean, I could have chosen this for the first house, but I chosen it for the 10th house because of the timeless feel of it. So this is the Revival Art. First edition. I didn't get the second one. I like this one better. I like the moodiness. The 11th house is a deck that you use for readings about activism and collective energy, or one that reflects a wider network you are part of. Actually, I don't read about activism. I do read about collective energy, but I have just thought that the Exen Tarot would be perfect for this prompt because this is quite new. in my collection because it has been recently released again after more than a decade. I used to see this one a lot of years ago and it went out of print and I couldn't get my copy, so I'm really glad this is available again. And this is, I think someone may have picked this one for the same prompt as well. This is so 11th house, right? So it's still in order because I haven't used it. And that's why, let's zoom in. That's why I was saying I may use this one because I still don't know how I want to use it, but I am thinking about it and I may want to use it, not as a regular deck, but to explore how outer influences may be impacting me. And when I say outer influences, I mean like technology or messages, because I feel like this deck with all this rich symbolism and modern themes can provide insights into how greater like external factors like communication or social media or technological shifts may be influencing my life and mindset. So for this kind of reading, I would focus on maybe themes of communication, mental clarity, or like, as I was saying, external forces. I think I would pay particular attention to cards that seem to speak to control, distractions, or shifts in energy related to technology. So basically the whole deck. So the 11th house is the house of innovation, rebellion, and social consciousness. So I think this is a perfect fit. And this deck explores themes of technology, hidden knowledge, and the intersection of history and the future. I think it's a very Orwellian, and the devil here also gives me such an Orwellian feel. This is my Orwellian deck. Such a pity it doesn't feature George Orwell actually, but it has that vibe, right? It seems to be about the same themes of, 1984, the novel, like control, surveillance, and the need to safeguard, our freedom and opposing those outer forces that seem to be like stronger and they kind of try to control us or limit our freedom, Okay guys, sorry, the battery was dead, and even though it doesn't seem like it, I'm filming this the next day, trying to capture the same light at the same time to finish this video. And I was saying, this is totally 11th house because this deck is all about progress, society, and the future. So this deck is edgy, intellectual, and filled with radical ideas. And definitely maybe not a light deck, but one that really makes me think for sure. And I would have loved to see maybe more writers featured in this deck. But we have some philosophers like Rousseau here, and for example, there is Huxley. And I would have loved, as I was saying, to have also George Orwell on this one, but Huxley works definitely too for, I think it was like a science fiction novelist. Yes, we have science fiction here. And but Orwell would have been so perfect also for this one. So, some of my favorite authors here, 11th house, Accent Tarot. Now, the 12th house of secrets and hidden depths. A deck you use to work with your unconscious and understand themes that bring themselves to the surface, or one that feels like it has hidden knowledge. And I've chosen for the 12th house, the Lonely Dreamer Tarot. Second edition. This is still in order because I haven't used it yet, but it's totally 12th house vibe for me. So the 12th house rules over dreams and intuition, and maybe I may zoom a little bit better, right? Dreams, intuition, and the hidden depths of the mind. So the Lonely Dreamer Tarot feels, and these are additional cards. This is the back of the 3rd edition too, still available. I bought this second-hand because the 2nd edition, this one, is not available now. So, and the 3rd reprint, I think, is going to be the last. It's soft yet profound, and with an imagery that feels like it drifts between the conscious and the subconscious. It's a perfect deck for introspective work, I think, for those moments when you want to go deep into your inner world and explore the unknown corners of your mind. It's still in order because I want to use it. Maybe I wanted the 2nd edition because it has got these backs, and to me they give me a very spring vibe. And so this is one that I want to use in spring. There is an expansion pack available also on Etsy for the 3rd edition, but I think I want to get the expansion pack for this one, also for the 2nd. I mean, it's the same, you know, so you just have more Odilon Redon cards. And I love the art here. And so the 12th house is the realm of dreams, the unknown, and spiritual surrender. So the Lonely Dreamer Tarot is a perfect match because it's soft, ethereal, and also filled with a sense of mystery and longing. It's the deck I would reach for, I think, when I want to tap into my intuition, but you can do it with every deck, right? But like explore the in-between spaces maybe, or explore my dreams, or just ask questions related to my intuition and what I'm sensing, you know, what is unknown, what I need to surrender to maybe. I know this is many people soul deck, or I've seen also here around on YouTube many people talking about this one, and I know it's many people's favorite deck. I really hope I can connect to it more, because right now there are other decks I'm working with. I've been working with other decks in February, but as I move forward, this is definitely one I want to get to know a little bit more. I certainly love the colors. I think this being a second-hand deck, there is something about its energy. I don't know if it has been used a lot, but I think I may need to cleanse it a little bit. I feel it has a good energy overall, but there is something like I'm sensing like it's not exactly mine yet. Maybe I just have to use it probably. And also it came in order, so I know it is, I don't know if it has been cleansed, but I think it was pretty good, you know, so. But it's certainly a deck I need to get to know more. I have not bonded with it yet, but I know that I wanted it. I was so drawn to the images. Such a beautiful Queen of Cups. This is often my card. So beautiful. Okay, guys. 12th house, the Lonely Dreamer Tarot. Thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for watching. I really hope to see you soon in another video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, or comment if you like this. I would really appreciate it. For those interested, I offer personal readings on my website. You may want to check it out, scttarot.com.